The stars blinked indifferently as Navigation Officer Esker Rohn counted down the seconds until atmospheric breach. His knuckles whitened against the control panel, sweat beading on his forehead despite the cabin's regulated temperature. This was his 17th planetary descent, but the first where he'd deliberately disabled the ship's automated systems. Manual approach complete in 5, 4, 3. The Helios Ascendant shuddered violently as it pierced Vega 9's upper atmosphere. Warning lights cascaded across his console, but Esker's hands remained steady, dancing across the controls with practiced precision. The research vessel's frame groaned under the strain of his unorthodox entry vector. 2, 1. Transition complete. The turbulence subsided. Through the view screen, pink-tinged clouds parted to reveal a sprawling research outpost nestled between violet mountain ranges. Esker allowed himself a tight smile as the comm unit crackled to life. "That was the smoothest manual entry I've ever witnessed," came Commander Oriel's voice. "Looks like your reputation isn't all exaggeration after all, Officer Rohn." His reply was interrupted by a proximity alert. Another vessel, sleek, predatory, and definitely not of human design, sliced through the clouds on an intercept course. "Unidentified craft approaching," he reported, professionalism masking his alarm. "Configuration unknown. Definitely not coalition." "Evasive maneuvers," Oriel ordered, but it was too late. A blinding pulse of energy engulfed the Helios, and Esker's world went dark. When he regained consciousness, the acrid scent of burnt circuitry filled his nostrils. The ship's emergency lighting cast eerie shadows across the now silent bridge. Esker pulled himself upright, wincing at the sharp pain in his ribs. The view screen showed only stars. They were in orbit again. "Commander?" he called, but received no answer. A soft noise from the corridor drew his attention. Footsteps, too light for standard coalition boots. Esker fumbled for the emergency sidearm beneath his console, raising it just as the bridge door slid open. The figure that entered wasn't human, tall and lithe, with skin that shifted between deep violet and midnight blue like a living nebula. 4 eyes, gem-like and faceted, studied him with unmistakable intelligence. The alien wore what appeared to be a form of environmental suit, though parts had been removed to reveal the swirling patterns beneath. "You know how to pilot manually," she said in perfect standard, the voice melodious yet somehow mechanical. "Fascinating." Esker kept the weapon trained on the center of her chest. "Who are you? What have you done with my crew?" "Your companions are unharmed," she replied, gesturing toward the view screen. "We have much to discuss, Esker Rohn." His blood ran cold. "How do you know my name?" "We've been watching your kind for some time." She approached slowly, seemingly unconcerned by his weapon. "I am Lyra Vex, cultural attaché of the Meridian Confluence." "Never heard of you." "No, you wouldn't have." Her head tilted with alien grace. "Your species has only just begun to venture beyond your small corner of the galaxy. We find your progress intriguing." Esker's finger tensed on the trigger. "Where are we going?" "To my vessel. The damage to yours is extensive." Her secondary eyes blinked in sequence. "We can provide assistance, but I require something in exchange." "And what's that?" "Knowledge," Lyra said simply. "I wish to understand humanity. And you, with your curious ability to navigate through instinct rather than computation, you will teach me." Before Esker could respond, a subtle vibration ran through the deck. The stars in the view screen shifted perspective, revealing a massive ship that dwarfed the Helios. Its surface rippled with colors that hurt his eyes to observe. "The choice is yours," Lyra continued. "Remain here, awaiting rescue that may never come, or accompany me and ensure your crew's safety." Esker lowered his weapon slowly. "If I agree, what happens next?" Lyra's skin pulsed with swirls of electric blue. "Then we begin with something fundamental to understanding between species. I believe humans call it breaking bread." The galley of Lyra's ship, the Void Whisper as she called it, bore little resemblance to human kitchen facilities. Surfaces that appeared solid would suddenly shift to liquid when touched with the right frequency. Instruments, hung suspended in anti-gravity fields, their functions entirely mysterious to Esker. Your crew is in biostasis, Lyra explained, leading him through the chamber. They will remain comfortable and unaware until repairs to your vessel are complete. And, I'm supposed to just trust you? Esker crossed his arms, keenly aware of how vulnerable he was aboard this alien craft. Trust is earned, she acknowledged. Which is why we begin with sustenance, a universal necessity. Her secondary eyes flickered in what he was beginning to recognize as amusement. Your species places great cultural significance on the preparation of nutrients. I find this inefficient but fascinating. Esker surveyed the alien kitchen. You want me to cook for you? I want you to teach me this human ritual. Lyra gestured toward what appeared to be storage units. We have synthesized equivalents of your earth ingredients based on our studies. With hesitation, Esker approached the indicated compartments. Inside he found recognizable foods, vegetables, grains, even what appeared to be meat, though each had subtle differences in color and texture. Start simply, he decided. Breakfast, eggs and toast. What followed was the strangest cooking, lesson in human history. Lyra observed with intense concentration as Esker demonstrated how to crack eggs, which were deep purple and perfectly spherical, how to butter bread, though the butter had the consistency of mercury until it touched a heated surface. The purpose of this ritualized preparation escapes me, Lyra commented as she attempted to flip an egg with disastrous results. Our species absorbs energy directly through specialized membranes. It's not just about nutrition, Esker explained, wiping alien egg from his uniform. It's about connection, sharing something you've created with others. A bonding mechanism, Lyra's skin rippled with understanding, similar to our light-sharing ceremonies. As they ate, Esker cautiously, Lyra with studious precision, he found himself relaxing slightly. The food tasted almost right, with unfamiliar undertones that weren't entirely unpleasant. Your manual navigation skills, Lyra said abruptly. They are unusual among your kind? Esker nodded. Most rely on AI assistance. I learned the old way from my grandfather. He believed a pilot should be able to feel their way through space, not just follow computer directions. This interests us greatly. Lyra's four eyes focused on him with unnerving intensity. The Meridian Confluence has observed that humanity's reliance on computational assistance has limited your spatial development. What do you mean by spatial development? Lyra's skin darkened to a deep indigo. There are shortcuts between stars, ways to traverse great distances without the limitations you know as light speed. But they cannot be calculated by machines. They must be intuited. Esker set down his fork. You're talking about faster than light travel. We are talking about something more fundamental. Lyra's voice took on a resonant quality. About perception. About seeing the universe as it truly exists, not as your primitive instruments interpret it. The implication struck Esker like a physical blow. You believe humans could navigate these shortcuts? Not all humans, Lyra corrected. But those like you, with the rare ability to truly feel spatial relationships. She made a gesture, with her upper limbs that somehow conveyed both possibility and doubt. The confluence has debated for centuries whether your species might one day qualify for inclusion. Inclusion in what? The greater community of spacefaring civilizations. Lyra's skin pulsed with patterns that seemed almost like writing. Those who navigate the deep currents between stars. Esker pushed his plate away, appetite forgotten. And that's why you abducted us, to test me? To offer opportunity, Lyra corrected. But first we must understand each other better. She gestured to the remains of their meal. Tomorrow, I will teach you how my people share sustenance. And, perhaps then, we can begin to discuss how to unlock your true navigational potential. As Esker followed her from the galley, he couldn't shake the feeling that he stood at the threshold of something that would change humanity forever. If he could survive the alien cuisine. Again, Lyra commanded, her voice neither impatient nor encouraging. Esker stood in the center of the Void Whisper's navigation chamber, surrounded by a three-dimensional star map that seemed to breathe and pulse with each passing moment. Sweat trickled down his back as he focused on the glowing pathway Lyra had indicated, a twisting corridor of possibility between two distant stars. "I can't see it," he admitted after his fifth attempt. "These currents you're talking about, they look like empty space to me, because you are trying to see with your eyes." Lyra's skin darkened with what might have been frustration. "The pathways exist between conventional perceptions. You must feel them." It had been 3 weeks since his recruitment. 3 weeks of alternating between teaching Lyra increasingly complex Earth recipes and these maddening navigation lessons that defied everything he understood about spatial physics. "Maybe humans just aren't capable of this," Esker said, slumping against the chamber wall. "Maybe you picked the wrong species to experiment on." Lyra's 4 eyes blinked in sequence. "Yesterday you showed me how to prepare a souffle. You said the process requires patience, intuition, and an understanding of invisible transformations. How is this different?" The comparison startled. A laugh from him. "Cooking and interstellar navigation aren't exactly the same thing, aren't they?" Lyra countered. "Both require feeling something beyond simple measurement. Your own history suggests this connection. Your early explorers crossed vast oceans using stars and intuition before instruments existed." Esker ran a hand through his hair. "That's different. They were still using visual cues tracking known patterns. And what are stars but patterns?" Lyra approached, her movement graceful despite the alien configuration of her limbs. "Close your eyes, Esker Rowan." Reluctantly, he complied. "Now remember the taste of the Kartha fruit I showed you yesterday," she continued, her voice softer. "How it changed from bitter to sweet as you consumed it. The memory was vivid, the strange, star-shaped fruit whose flavor transformed with each bite, revealing new dimensions of taste. That transformation occurs because your perception shifts," Lyra explained. "Not because the fruit itself changes. The universe works the same way. The pathways between stars exist in transitional states that most beings filter out." Something about her words resonated with Esker. He kept his eyes closed, trying to sense the star map surrounding him in a different way. "There is a reason cooking speaks to your soul," Lyra continued. "It is transformation made tangible. Space is no different. It folds and unfolds, reveals and conceals." Almost unconsciously, Esker raised his hand, moving it through the darkness behind his closed eyelids as if stirring an invisible pot. And for the briefest moment, he felt something, a current, a whisper of movement that had nothing to do with the physical space around him. His eyes snapped open. "I felt something." Lyra's skin erupted in patterns of bright azure. "Yes, that is the beginning." For the next several hours they worked together, Esker repeatedly closing his eyes, reaching out with senses he didn't know he possessed. Occasionally, frustratingly, he would catch glimpses of what Lyra was trying to show him. Pathways between stars that existed in some strange quantum state, perceptible only when approached with the right mental framework. By the time they broke for rest, Esker was physically and mentally exhausted, but a spark of excitement had kindled within him. "The confluence believes humanity may be ready for ascension," Lyra said as they shared a meal of earth pasta, prepared by Esker, and luminescent meridian spores, prepared by Lyra. Ascension to what? To join the stellar community. Lyra consumed a mouthful of spaghetti with methodical precision. "There are 14 spacefaring civilizations who navigate the deep currents. All others remain confined to conventional space travel, effective prisoners within their own star systems." Esker twirled pasta around his fork, considering the implications. "And if I master this like navigation technique, then you would be the first human to truly see the galaxy as it is," Lyra said. "And perhaps you could teach others of your kind with the necessary potential." "How many humans would have this ability?" "Perhaps 1 in 10,000, Lyra replied. "But that would be sufficient. Our studies suggest your species adapts quickly, Esker set down his fork. What happens to the other 9,999? Those who can't learn this? Lyra's skin rippled with complex patterns. They would continue as they are, limited to conventional travel. Something in her tone made Esker uneasy. So, humanity would be divided? Between those who can navigate the currents and those who can't? All advanced civilizations experience such divisions, Lyra stated matter-of-factly. It is the natural order of evolution. Esker pushed his plate away, appetite gone. There's nothing natural about creating a two-tier society based on an ability only a few possess. You object to the very concept your own civilization is built upon? Lyra's secondary eyes narrowed. Your species already separates by arbitrary distinctions: wealth, geography, genetic ancestry. And those are problems we're trying to fix, not cosmic traits to be enshrined. The tension between them crackled like static electricity. For the first time, Esker felt truly alien in Lyra's presence, not because of her appearance, but because of the vast philosophical gulf between them. You have much to learn about galactic realities, Lyra finally said, rising from the table. Rest now. Tomorrow, we continue your training. As she departed, Esker sat alone, surrounded by the remains of their shared meal, wondering if he was being offered humanity's greatest opportunity or its most profound threat. The council grows impatient, the holographic figure stated, its form shifting between various geometric patterns that Esker had learned represented different members of the Meridian ruling body. Has the human shown sufficient aptitude? From his hiding place in the maintenance shaft adjacent to Lyra's private quarters, Esker held his breath. He'd discovered this access point 3 days earlier while exploring the less monitored sections of the Void Whisper. He understood perhaps one word in 5 of the Meridian language, but the translation device he'd quietly programmed using knowledge from his navigation lessons filled in the gaps. The subject progresses faster than anticipated, Lyra replied, her skin displaying formal patterns of deep purple. Esker Rohn possesses exceptional spatial awareness, even by human standards. Then why delay? Extract the neural patterns and proceed with synthesis. Esker's blood ran cold. Premature extraction would be inefficient, Lyra countered. Each day brings new neural connections that strengthen the pathway recognition. The template will be more stable with continued organic development. The hologram flickered with patterns that Esker's translator interpreted as disapproval. Your interest in this species exceeds scientific parameters, cultural attaché. Your request for actual food materials rather than simulations, these cooking lessons, they serve no research purpose. Understanding their cultural rituals provides context for neural development, Lyra insisted. The human concept of cooking contains surprising parallels to current manipulation. This species integrates creative intuition with technical precision in unique ways. The Council's decision stands. You have 7 orbital periods remaining. Then we extract the neural template, whether optimal or not. After the hologram disappeared, Esker remained frozen in place, processing the implications. Neural extraction, templates, synthesis. The friendly cultural exchange had been a facade. He was being prepared for some kind of mental harvesting. He retreated silently through the maintenance tunnels back to his quarters. The room, designed to approximate human living conditions, now felt like the cell it had always been. His thoughts raced to Commander Oriel and the rest of the crew, supposedly in comfortable biostasis. What was really happening to them? The door slid open, revealing Lyra. Tomorrow we begin advanced current recognition, she announced, then paused, studying him with all 4 eyes. Your biological signs indicate distress. Esker forced himself to appear calm. Just tired from today's training. Perhaps we should prepare nourishment together, she suggested. You mentioned a dish called comfort food that humans consume when fatigued. Not tonight. He turned away, afraid his eyes might betray what he'd learned. I need rest. Lyra lingered in the doorway. Your progress exceeds all projections, Esker Rohn. Soon you will perceive the currents fully, the first human to truly see beyond conventional space-time. And then what happens? He asked carefully. Then you join the ranks of current navigators, the most valued beings in the galaxy. She was lying. He was certain now. After Lyra departed, Esker waited an hour before slipping back into the maintenance network. He had pieced together enough of the ship's layout to navigate its service corridors. If his crew was anywhere aboard, they would be in the research section 2 decks below. The journey through the ship's innards was harrowing. Twice he had to freeze in place as Meridian crew members passed nearby, their skin glowing with bioluminescence that served as both communication and light source. The ship itself seemed almost alive, with surfaces that shifted and restructured themselves periodically. When he finally reached the research section, what he found confirmed his worst fears. Behind transparent barriers floated the unconscious forms of Commander Oriel and the 11 other crew members. Each was connected to sophisticated equipment that pulsed rhythmically. Data streams flowed across nearby displays, neural activity, carefully being mapped and recorded. They were being studied just as he was, their minds dissected without consent. As he watched in horror, a Meridian researcher approached Commander Oriel's tank, adjusting something that caused her face to contort in pain though she remained unconscious. Rage flared within Esker, hot and immediate. His first instinct was to burst in, to somehow free his crew. But that would be suicide, and likely doom them all. He needed a plan. Back in his quarters, Esker stared at the ceiling, calculating options. The Helios was supposedly being repaired, but he had only Lyra's word for that. Even if it were true, the ship was likely under heavy guard. Any escape attempt would require both precise timing and a distraction. The next morning, he met Lyra in the galley with renewed enthusiasm. "I want to prepare something special today," he announced. "A traditional Earth celebration meal." Lyra's skin rippled with interest. "What is the occasion we celebrate?" "Discovery," Esker replied, forcing a smile. "You've shown me new ways to see the universe. I want to acknowledge that with something meaningful from my culture." If Lyra suspected his change in demeanor, she gave no indication. "This reciprocity pleases me. What ingredients will you require?" Esker listed several common Earth foods, along with a few special requests, specific spices and minerals that, according to his careful study of Meridian biological information in the ship's database, would create a powerful sedative effect on Meridian physiology when combined under heat. "These elements are available in our synthesis chambers," Lyra confirmed, "though some will require special calibration." "Excellent," Esker replied, already calculating cook times and concentrations. "This will be a meal the Confluence won't soon forget." The preparation took hours. Esker moved methodically through the alien kitchen, combining Earth cooking techniques with his newfound understanding of Meridian biochemistry. The meal he created looked innocuous, a multi-course feast featuring elements that would appeal to both human and Meridian senses. "This aroma stimulates unusual neural pathways," Lyra observed as she watched him work. Her skin displayed patterns he now recognized as pleasure and curiosity. "It's meant to engage all the senses," Esker explained, carefully stirring a sauce that contained the highest concentration of sedative elements. "On Earth, we believe the anticipation of food is as important as the consumption. Your species places remarkable importance on sensory experiences," Lyra said. "The Confluence has long debated whether this represents evolutionary weakness or strength." Esker sprinkled the final spices across the main dish. "And what's your conclusion?" "I have come to believe it may be your greatest advantage," she replied. "Your attachment to physical sensation keeps you connected to the fundamental nature of reality." Something in her tone made Esker pause. "You sound almost envious." "The Meridian evolved beyond certain physical limitations centuries ago," Lyra explained. "But in doing so, we lost something essential, the intuitive connection to the universe that your kind still possesses. Is that why you're so interested in how I navigate? Because your people can't feel the currents naturally anymore?" Lyra's secondary eyes closed briefly, A gesture he'd learned indicated discomfort with a truth. The council would not appreciate my sharing this, but yes. Once, all meridians could sense the currents between stars. Now only specialized cultivars retain this ability, and even they require technological assistance. Esker absorbed this revelation, wondering if it might be leveraged somehow. So you need humans because we can still do naturally what you've lost through evolution? Not all humans, Lyra corrected. Only rare individuals like yourself, with particular neural configurations. That? She stopped abruptly. I have perhaps said too much. No, please, Esker urged, sensing an opportunity. I want to understand. It helps me grasp what I'm learning. After a moment's hesitation, Lyra continued. The confluence requires new navigational templates. Our existing ones degrade with each generation. Your neural patterns offer fresh possibilities, ways of perceiving space-time that our civilization has forgotten, and that's worth sharing your faster-than-light technology with humanity. Again, that subtle closing of the secondary eyes. The Council has not yet determined what level of technology sharing would be appropriate. Esker turned back to his cooking to hide his expression. The pieces were falling into place. The Meridians didn't plan to elevate humanity. They intended to harvest the neural patterns of the few humans who could sense the currents, then discard them. A resource extraction, not a cultural exchange. The meal is ready, he announced, presenting the elaborate spread. In human tradition, we would invite others to share this celebration. Perhaps some of your crew would like to join us? Lyra's skin brightened. An excellent suggestion. The research team has expressed interest in your cultural practices. Exactly as Esker had hoped. Within the hour, 6 Meridian researchers had joined them in what passed for a dining hall aboard the Void. Whisper. Esker played the gracious host, explaining each dish with enthusiasm, demonstrating proper Earth dining etiquette, encouraging his alien guests to experience the full sensory spectrum of the meal. By the time they reached the final course, AA, dessert containing the most potent concentration of sedative compounds, Esker could already see the effects taking hold. The Meridian's skin patterns grew sluggish, their movements less precise. This sensation is unusual, one researcher commented, 4 eyes blinking asymmetrically. A pleasant heaviness. That's part of the experience, Esker assured them. A satisfied fullness that follows a well-prepared meal. Lyra, who had consumed less than the others, showed milder symptoms but was clearly affected. Your culinary science contains unexpected depths, Esker Rohn. Within 20 minutes, all 6 researchers had lapsed into unconsciousness, their skin barely pulsing with vital patterns. Lyra remained awake but disoriented, her movements uncoordinated. What have you done? She asked, her voice slurring as she struggled to remain upright. Esker approached her, feeling a strange mixture of triumph and regret. The same thing you planned for me and my crew. I took what I needed. You don't understand, Lyra managed before slumping forward. The Council, not the whole truth. But Esker was already moving, retrieving the access credentials he'd carefully observed during their meals together. He had perhaps 2 hours before the effects wore off, barely enough time to reach the research section, free his crew, and locate the Helios. As he reached the door, he paused, looking back at Lyra's unconscious form. Despite everything, she had taught him something invaluable, not just about the currents between stars, but about humanity's unique place in the cosmos. For a moment, he considered taking her with him, convincing her to help. Instead, he turned away. Some recipes once prepared couldn't be undone. The Helios Ascendant tumbled through conventional space, its engines struggling to maintain course as coalition rescue vessels closed in. On the bridge, Commander Oriel braced herself against a damaged console as another system failure triggered alarms throughout the ship. Status report, Navigation Officer, she ordered, her voice hoarse from the after effects of long-term stasis. Esker's hands danced across his controls, compensating for the fluctuating power grid. 8 minutes until intercept with the Artemis. Life support stable, but secondary systems failing. Whatever the Meridians did to our engines during their repairs is causing cascading failures. The rescue had gone better than he'd expected, until it hadn't. Freeing the crew from their research tanks had been relatively simple once he'd bypassed the Meridian security protocols. Finding the Helios, parked in a massive hangar bay and partially disassembled, had been a nasty surprise. But the worst shock came when they encountered Lyra, somehow recovered from the sedative waiting for them at the hangar entrance. What followed was a confrontation Esker still couldn't fully process. Lyra had not attempted to stop them. Instead, she had provided critical access codes and a warning. The Council tracks all vessels. They will not allow you to retain what you've learned. She had been right. No sooner had they cleared the void, Whisper than pursuit vessels appeared, forcing them to make a desperate jump back to Coalition space using conventional drives. The Meridian ships had broken off pursuit at the border, but not before inflicting serious damage. Officer Rowan, Oriel's voice cut through his thoughts. You still haven't explained how you managed to pilot us through that asteroid field without navigational computers. Esker hesitated. How could he explain what he'd learned from Lyra? The currents between stars that existed in quantum superposition, perceptible only to those with specific neural patterns. The vast community of spacefaring civilizations who used these currents to traverse the galaxy in ways humanity had never imagined? I had some time to practice while you were in stasis, Commander, he replied. Oriel's eyes narrowed. 3 months in alien captivity and you come out a better pilot? Something like that. Before she could press further, the comm system crackled. Helios Ascendant, this is Coalition Vessel Artemis. We have you on approach. Prepare for emergency. Docking. Relief washed over the bridge crew, all except Esker, who felt a growing unease. What would happen when they returned to Earth, when he told the Coalition about what he'd experienced, about the Meridian confluence and their interest in human navigational potential? Would they believe him or dismiss his account as trauma-induced hallucination? And what of the knowledge itself, the ability to sense pathways through space that defied conventional physics? A gift that could propel humanity to the stars, or make them targets for advanced civilizations who saw them as resources to be harvested. 6 hours later, after medical evaluation and preliminary debriefing aboard the Artemis, Esker found himself alone in his temporary quarters. The Coalition officials had listened to his account with obvious skepticism, though they'd been intensely interested in the technical specifications he'd managed to memorize from the Meridian vessel. A soft tone indicated a visitor. The door slid, open to reveal Commander Oriel, her expression unreadable. Officer Rowan, she said formally. I've reviewed the security footage from the Helios. There's something you should see. She placed a data tablet on the table between them. On the screen played grainy footage of the ship's cargo bay, showing a figure that could only be Lyra, boarding the Helios moments before their escape. Want to explain why we have a stowaway alien hiding in Cargo Module 3? Oriel asked, her voice dangerously calm. Esker felt the universe shift beneath him. That's impossible. She was on the bridge when we left. Apparently not, Oriel replied. She's asking to speak with you, claims she's defecting from something called the Meridian confluence. When Esker entered the secure holding area, Lyra sat cross-legged on the floor, her skin displaying patterns he'd never seen before, complex fractal designs that seemed almost like star charts. I did not expect you to find me so quickly, she said without preamble. I didn't put you on my ship, Esker replied, remaining by the door. Why are you here? Because what I taught you is incomplete. Lyra's 4 eyes fixed on him with disturbing intensity. And because what the Council plans for your species is worse than you imagine. Neural harvesting isn't bad enough? That was merely the beginning. Lyra's skin darkened. The confluence doesn't just want navigation templates from exceptional humans. They want to understand how your kind can still perceive reality in ways we have lost. Once they have that knowledge, they won't need actual humans anymore, Esker finished, cold realization dawning. Precisely. Lyra rose in one fluid motion, which is why I chose to leave everything behind, to warn you and to complete your training. Why should I trust you, Now? Because I have nowhere else to go. Her secondary eyes closed completely, the meridian gesture of absolute vulnerability. And because when we shared meals together, I began to remember what my people have forgotten. That connection to the universe isn't just about navigation. It's about being fully present in the moment of creation. Esker studied her, searching for deception. So what happens now? Now, Lyra said, her skin brightening with determination. I teach you the rest of what you need to know about the currents between stars. And you teach humanity how to take its place in the greater galaxy. Not as subjects to be harvested, but as equals to be reckoned with. Esker thought of all the cooking lessons they had shared, how she had watched him transform raw ingredients into something greater than the sum of its parts. Perhaps humanity's future among the stars required a similar alchemy, taking what Lyra offered and transforming it into something uniquely human. I believe, he said slowly, that starts with teaching others what you've shown me. Lyra's skin pulsed with what he now recognized as approval. Yes, the recipe for cosmic navigation passed from teacher to student. He taught her to cook, Esker mused, thinking of their strange cultural exchange. And she taught him to conquer. Stars, Lyra finished. Though perhaps conquer is the wrong word. Perhaps what your species needs is not domination of space, but communion with it. As coalition scientists gathered outside the holding cell, their instruments recording every detail of this unprecedented first contact, Esker Rohn made a decision that would forever alter humanity's destiny. Let's start from the beginning, he said, settling cross-legged before her. With the most basic ingredient of all, trust. Lyra's skin rippled with patterns that mirrored the hidden currents between stars, pathways invisible to most, but revealed to those who knew how to look. Together they would prepare humanity for a feast of possibilities beyond imagining.